Hi folks, welcome to this video on, I've called it the drug debate. This is separate to the videos about anabolics, EPO, beta blockers, HGH, things like that. Because this isn't about necessarily why people take drugs, the benefits and the side effects. This is about should we allow drug use in sport or not. So this is a kind of a discuss question topic and what would, and ultimately what we're doing to catch the cheats. Because whether you agree with drug use or not, they are, as it stands right now, illegal, and if you take a illegal substance you will be banned. So it's difficult for some people because they are very much disagree. Drugs should not be allowed in sport, but in terms of the exam you've got to be able to give both arguments. You've got to be able to see it from both angles, whether you agree with it or not. So that's what we're going to look at first here. So let's split the slide like this. So should we allow performers to take drugs? We're going to have an agree and a disagree part of this, and we'll start with the agree side of it. So as you can see, there might be more arguments for allowing drugs than you'd have thought. Let's deal with them one at a time. If we allow people to take drugs, it's going to lead to a better standard of performance. Now that's going to attract more viewers, that is going to attract more sponsorship and more investment into the sport. There's no denying that. Okay? If someone was to say to me, are you watching the 100 metres tonight, someone might do it in under 7 seconds, I'm going to watch. Whether I know they're on drugs or not, I'm going to watch that to see if it can be done. Something else about illegal drugs, particularly something like anabolic steroids. If you were to inject an anabolic steroid, it will literally not improve your performance at all. What anabolic steroids do is they allow you to train longer and recover quicker. So actually, and I'm not trying to defend them at all, but people who've used anabolic steroids have actually trained harder than those people who haven't used anabolic steroids, but they have used an illegal substance to do that. But it isn't just a case of a mediocre athlete injects a substance and suddenly overnight they're a superstar. It's not like that at all. Another good point, other technologies are allowed. Things like carbon fibre bikes, and some nations have access to them and some nations don't. So why is that advantage allowed, yet some people using steroids or EPO isn't allowed? When, if we look at athletes in the UK, we're born and we live at sea level, whereas athletes in Kenya are born and live their lives at high altitude. Well, that's a bit unfair, isn't it? Because they've got all the benefits of high altitude for free. Shouldn't British athletes be allowed to use a little bit of EPO to level the playing field? I don't know, it's a point for debate, hence why this is a discussion topic. If we allow drugs to take place, we can get better monitoring of their effects, and that is going to reduce the health risks associated with them. Because one of the big arguments for not allowing drugs is the harmful side effects. Well, make them legal and we should get rid of quite a lot of those. Isn't drug use free choice? Aren't we a society that is big on free choice? Which, why put a question mark on there? Again, it's a point worth considering. Many banned substances occur naturally in the body anyway. No better example of that than testosterone. Why do people take anabolic steroids? To boost testosterone levels. Well, men and women already have testosterone in their body. So why? All we're doing is boosting the amount of a natural substance. If I take a protein shake or creatine powder, I'm just doing the same there. So why are those two allowed and anabolics aren't? And finally, testing isn't 100% accurate anyway. We sometimes accuse innocent performers of being guilty. Diane Modal case is a big example of that. Her urine sample was stored on the windowsill and it multiplied the amount of testosterone in that urine sample, and it went on for years and years, this court case, and she was eventually proved innocent, but her career was over by that stage and her reputation being dragged through the mud. And equally, there are a lot of people who are taking illegal substances and getting away with it. So we're not really catching the cheats, so we're not protecting the innocents. So there's a lot of issues surrounding, drug use and should we actually allow them? Would it just be better and simpler if we allowed athletes to take what they want? But like I said, we've got to give a balanced argument here, and for every argument to say that we should allow drugs, there's an equally good one to say that we shouldn't. Hence why, and before you start panicking thinking, God, I don't know what I think anymore, good, that's kind of the point. Half the sporting PhDs on the planet are trying to figure this one out, whether we should allow it or should we not. So who are we to, definitely come down on one side of the fence? I know we've said here that there'll be better monitoring to reduce the health risks. Some of these substances you can monitor in the cleanliest medical environment in the world. They have unavoidable health risks. So we're not going to get rid of all the health problems associated with drug use. Even though we said, technologies are allowed and wouldn't it level the playing field, there is an unfair advantage with taking drugs in that they are not universally available to all. You know, some people are going to be able to afford them, some people aren't. Some people live in countries where they're going to have access to this, a lot of people don't. So it's not going to be fair, it's not going to be equal access. It's also, I know I said I'd watch it if someone was going to run the 100 in under 7 seconds or whatever I said, but it is, once I've watched it, I'm going to go, whoa, bloody hell, and then I'm going to walk away and go, yeah, but they're on drugs, weren't they? It is going to reduce the image of that sport. That's going to lead to negative role models in that sport as well, and ultimately it's going to send out the wrong message. And we've summed up like this: if you don't take it, you won't make it, i.e. the notion that you're never going to win anything unless you take these substances. So people who might want to do it clean are going to be pressured into taking substances in order to win medals, you know, earn a living, retain their sponsorship, retain their funding. So, like I said, it is a drug debate. It is ongoing. There are arguments for and against, and these are the key points you've got to remember on whether we should or shouldn't allow drug use in sport. Now, like I said right at the start, you know, there is an ongoing debate. However, as it stands right now, they are illegal. So what are we doing to catch the cheats and reduce the risk of doping? So we're going to look now at the strategies. If you get asked about how do you reduce the risk of doping in sport or put off people from doping, or what strategies are in place to catch current people who are doping and cheating, here's what the answers would be. Now, it looks a lot, but obviously this has been, you know, part of an essay question before in the past. What we're doing to catch the cheats, let's just deal with these one at a time. Really, really straightforward they are as well. We need to do more random testing, the whereabouts rule. You know, so telling officials, doping officials, where you're going to be 1 hour a day, 7 days a week for the next 3 months, so that they can pop in on you at a random time and take a urine and or blood sample. That is going to put people off, because it's no longer a case of, oh, well, you know, I've been tested once, so we only ever get tested once, so now I can take what I want. Random drug testing. They don't do this in some countries, hence why there are some countries whose names have been dragged through the mud. Equally, countries like Jamaica, now I'm not saying anything against Jamaican performers, but Jamaica only do in-season drug testing. So they only drug test whilst they're competing. Now, when are you likely to take something like anabolic steroids, EPO, HGH? It's going to be pre-season when you're doing all your heavy training, all your weights and sprints. So, you know, some organisations are actively letting people get away with it, or giving them the opportunity to get away with it. We need to get rid of that. Things like the 100% Me campaign, which is, you know, athletes and performers are made to go on, where they are given clear guidelines on what they are not allowed to take and what they are allowed to take. Now, interestingly, Maria Sharapova should have gone on one of these, but turned it down, declined to go for whatever reason. And it was the one where they were talking about how meldonium was going to become a banned substance as of January the 1st, 2016. She missed that. She missed the information. She has since tested positive for it. So, you know, the opportunities are there, but if you miss it, you've got nothing to fall back on. Equally, you need educational programs. Yes, you might be aware of all the positives that anabolic steroids do and things like that, but are you aware of the side effects, the devastating effects it can have on your health and your fitness? So getting some education out there as well. Common ones, punishments such as bans, fines, having you stripped of your titles, has happened to Lance Armstrong. Increasing the amount of funding that we have on testing as well, so we can test more people, we can test them more often, we can test for more things. That's sending out the right message. Also pushing our positive role models, those who are clean, those who do it clean, those who we know who are living a clean lifestyle and still achieving. It can be done. You don't need to be taking this, that and everything else to become a winner. Something else happened to Lance Armstrong was he had to return all funding and sponsorship, millions of dollars. You know, because he signed contracts with Nike saying that he will endorse their products and this, that and everything else, but he's going to do it as a clean athlete, knowingly clean, never done anything bad. Don't forget, you know, the image, you know, companies want to associate with clean, great athletes so that their brand is associated with greatness. Whereas if someone's name gets dragged through the mud, so does every brand that they're associated with. So, you know, it hits them hard. Another point is the athlete's passport. Now, that's not their actual passport for growing abroad. The athlete's passport is a concept where now blood and urine samples are getting stored for 20 years. So it's almost sending the message that you might be taking something brand new and think that you're going to get away with it. Because by the time we've made a test for this substance, you're going to be retired, your career's over, and you're sat there with all your titles. That isn't the case anymore. We're going to historically test samples from up to 20 years ago when new tests come online. Now, recently, as I've done this video, I think it's 31 athletes have recently failed drug tests from the 2008 Beijing Olympics, and it's 2016 now, so we're testing and finding cheats from 8 years ago using this method. So it'll be interesting to see what sanctions are pushed then. And finally, we need to employ marketing consultants. I've put two sports there, cycling and athletics, not got the best reputations at this moment in time. Every time someone wins something in cycling or athletics, the immediate assumption is, well, what have they taken to achieve that? So we need to get marketing consultants to push the clean image of the sport and tie it in with that, the positive role model effect. These people are doing it clean and winning. We need to get that image out there a lot more, okay? And finally, one last thing we could look at. We are doing a lot of testing in order to find the cheats, in order to protect those athletes who are clean. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of testing? And again, it's a discussed question. I'm very much on the side of, well, if you test, you catch the cheats. Simple as that, isn't it? And then you look into it a little bit more and you think, actually, no, yeah, it's not as clear cut as that. So what we're just going to do very quickly now is just finish with this and look at a couple of little, 3 or 4 little advantages and disadvantages of testing and why it isn't all clear cut. Well, the obvious number one advantage of drug testing globally, everywhere, all sports, is that we catch cheats. Sorry for moving that around again. We catch the cheats and then we can punish them and ban them, and we know that our sport's a lot cleaner. The other thing is that if testing procedures are the same everywhere, we'll get similar punishments. We'll get, if they're caught taking anabolic steroids, it's a 4-year ban or it's a lifetime ban. None of this, because you admitted to it, we'll let you off with 6 months. If they test positive for this in any sport, it's an automatic 4-year ban. You can't have players then switching sports. For example, Dwayne Chambers was banned from taking from athletics and then switched codes to rugby league because he wasn't banned in that sport. That's wrong, because it's sending out the wrong message. Okay? Random testing. Get that doing more because it's more effective and it's most effective. We're going to catch more people, more cheats if we do random drug testing. If we are doing more drug testing across all sports for all substances, we can actually share the costs as opposed to it costing us more. We can share the costs across all sports and actually make it cheaper per sport. And this is an interesting one. Athletes can't pick and choose sports or nations based on testing procedures. I'm not going to name any names, but I've heard stories of athletes switching nations for one reason or another, but basically based on the fact that I'm taking this, and I know that this country does a lot of testing for this, whereas if I switch nations to this country, I can still take this substance and get away with it. Again, that's totally and utterly wrong. We can't have that taking place. So you can't pick and choose sports or nations based on the testing procedures. We can't allow that because it's sending out the wrong message. So if we do testing across the board, all athletes, all sports, we test for the same things, these are the key advantages that we are going to get from that. However, obviously, as with all things in life, there are going to be some disadvantages. So let's finish with them. So apologies for having to squish them in, but you'll be able to see the difference there. One of the big problems is getting all countries to agree to do this, and to the policies and the procedures and things like that. So there, getting everyone on board is going to be very, very difficult. We've got a limited number of testing facilities. Now, I know I said it's going to be, if we share the costs all across all sports, that's of testing. We're going to get the number of testing facilities up to the right standard first. And that's going to cost a lot of money in the first few years of doing this. So there's obviously going to be a cost issue there in the infancy. As new drugs come online, we're still going to be we're going to have people taking things, but getting away with it. So we're still going to have incorrect results. So if we're going to have that, is it worth doing at all? Is the counter argument to that. And also, as we go across all sports and all countries, we're going to encounter difficulty in which substances should be banned and which ones shouldn't. In terms of historically what's been allowed and what's been not in certain sports, and how are you then going to phase the use of that substance out if it's suddenly now on the banned substance list for your sport? It's going to be difficult. And that money that we are going to have to spend on building new facilities, would it be more effective to put on education programs in terms of the dangers of drug use to put people off that way? I don't know. They're the things that we talk about. They're the things that come up. So there are issues surrounding it. It's a big murky area. You know, it's one of those areas where they talk about it being grey. It's not black or white. It's not definitely agree or definitely disagree. There's a, you know, you're in the grey area somewhere in between. So what I've covered on this video is all the key things associated with drug use in sport. So hopefully you found it useful. Look at the past paper questions, see how it's come up and see which bits are relevant to the question that you're trying to answer. Good luck with it, folks.